Ciao, this recipe in Italian is called Pasticcio di Melanzane, and I will be honest with you, I looked up pasticcio and the word translation I found was casserole. It's not a casserole what I'm making. Pasticcio in Italian means a mess, so I'm making a mess with aubergines. But Julie and I had a chat and we decided to call it an aubergine and potato mash sandwich. A couple of cloves of garlic which I've just smashed. I think I was a little bit mean with the oil. I was getting carried away.
Tight with his olive oil today.
So aubergines or eggplants, if you are in the States, I'll slice these into 1 centimeter cubes, and I'm using a bread knife for this job. These are a couple of medium ones, and weight-wise they are 600 grams. So if you want to replicate the recipe, that's what you need. Aubergines and potato are going to be the main ingredient, but if you have got some loose vegetables in the fridge, like peppers or something like maybe courgettes, just throw them in as well. Doesn't matter, it will be all good. It is a mess after all. And whilst everything is still cold, I'll add my eggplant to the oil, 1 teaspoon of salt and a little bit of pepper to taste. This is a little green pepper. This is mild, so I'm going to leave the seeds inside. And also, you don't have to put it in, or you can use chili flakes if you like, but it will add some nice flavor. And I'll place the lid on, and before I put it on the hob, I'll give everything a good mix, and so that everything is properly coated. I've started the aubergines on a high heat so that they get going, but I'll turn them down onto a medium setting now. And I'll place the lid on and I will leave them to sizzle and cook in their own steam. And like this is a much healthier way of cooking aubergines because you don't need to add any more oil, and also the steam will cook the aubergines without boiling them. So the eggplant will cook for about 15 minutes until they are soft and translucent, but halfway through I'll give them a little toss. These are 700 grams of potatoes which I boiled earlier, and I'm gonna mash them in a moment, but also I'm keeping the skin in mind because the skin is really good and full of fiber, but if you don't fancy the skin, just remove it. And I'm gonna use a potato masher for this job. You can also use a fork if you like, but I'm not going to be mashing them to the end degree. I want to leave a little texture, so I'll just do most probably 20 seconds or so until they're mashed, but also they've got some lovely bits of potatoes left.
And how's the new potato masher?
New potato masher is great. We lost the other one, I couldn't find it, but this is what you're looking for. As you can see, I didn't mash them to the end. They're still a little bit chunky, which is perfect.
Yeah, that's how I like my mashed potatoes anyway.
I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is a very quick and easy recipe, and I'm going to show you in the meantime some of the other ingredients. I'm making mine as a meat eater version of whatever this is called. These are sausages, a couple of sausages which I shallow fried in a little olive oil, and also I will be using some ham. And in my case, a combination of cheese that I found in the fridge. So here I've got some pizza mozzarella, this is some pecorino cheese, and also I've got some grated cheddar, which I will also be using. You choose whatever you like, but do ensure that the cheese you use is nice and stringy because it will have a much better texture at the end. So we have catered for you if you're vegetarian, or we also catered for you if you're a meat eater. If you are a vegan, the only thing you've got to do is to replace your cheese with some vegan cheese. But I forgot to mention the egg. I will be using either 1 or 2 eggs depending on the consistency. If you're vegan, and you can actually substitute the egg with chickpea water, which is just as good. Let's take a quick look at the eggplants. They've been sizzling now for a good 5 minutes and they're beginning to slowly cook. And do not get carried away and add any more oil, as they will release it in a little while. They are doing perfectly okay. So I'll just leave them and place the lid back on, and another 6-7 minutes and they'll be ready. They've been cooking now for a good 15 minutes and if I go inside you can see that they're done. They're lovely and translucent and soft. The fact that they're stuck to the bottom, do not worry, that's even better. And with the garlic, by the way, here's mine. I'll choose to crush mine a little bit further, but you can take it out if you want, entirely up to you, but if you like it, just leave it there, it's lovely. Anyway, this is done, so time to move on. So here's my potato and green. Next I'm adding a good handful of parsley. This is frozen parsley, but frozen when it was fresh. You can also use basil if you like, or your favorite herb, coriander, it doesn't really matter, entirely your choice. In my case though, I will also be adding a little oregano because I like it. So if you don't like it, don't put it in, but if you do, add it, it's lovely. just a little sprinkle. I mentioned cheddar, which I grated, so I'll put a couple of handful of my grated cheddar. And optional, especially if you put the cheddar in already, but I will be making mine a little bit richer tonight, so also the equivalent of Parmesan cheese, also grated. And I'll combine everything together to establish if I need 1 or 2 eggs. And as the potatoes were cold, the mixture has cooled down, so that ensures that the egg doesn't cook. And let's have a look. There is quite a lot there, so I think I'm going to go for egg number 2 today, and in it goes. This will make 4 to 5 different portions, so it's quite a lot there.
I know it's not quite the same, but it does remind me of Bubble and Squeak, because the mashed potato and all the...
Yeah, I suppose.
You know, that's what tradition in the UK we use odds and ends.
The difference being that these are eggplants. And give everything a good old mix so that you end up with a lovely consistency that sounds just like this. Listen. Now this is decision time. You need to decide if you want to do it in the oven or on the hob. I'm going to cook mine on the hob today because I think it's a little bit more fun. But if you choose to do it in the oven, you need an oven dish.
Oh, I'm liking your little heart.
Yeah, yes, over there.
You couldn't have done that on purpose if you tried.
However, do ensure that your pan or oven dish, whatever you're using, the oil is equally distributed across the entire surface like this. Split the mix in half, and I'll pour half in my pan.
So elegantly done, my dear.
And using my spoon, I'm making sure that I distribute it across the bottom of the pan. If you're a meat eater, this is where you can start adding your ham, if you're using ham, or you can use pancetta, or you can use bacon, or whatever you like. There isn't a rule here. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to be using 3 nice slices of ham. This is cooked ham. But if you were to use bacon, for example, I would cook it in advance, because the idea is that before you put this together, all of the ingredients are cooked, and then you're just reheating everything together. Here is my mozzarella, my pizza mozzarella, and I'm going to do my slices nice and chunky. And don't be shy, just be generous with the cheese, because this is a much nicer recipe if it's lovely and cheesy. And I'll cover the bottom like this. I mentioned earlier that I had cooked some sausages which are shallow fried, so they can go in. And I'm making sure that I equally distribute them, so that when you slice it, everybody gets the same amount. This is one of those dishes where you cannot be too elegant, so don't worry. Just add your mix on the top now. And using my spoon, I'll tap it down, and I'll start closing my creation. I'm now switching for a spatula to ensure that the borders are nice and round as well. So ideal if you go one of those silicone ones, because you can go literally inside the edge and push it down like this. And also I'm using this to ensure that I'll give the edge a little bit of a round corner like this. And this is ready to be cooked now, and I'll move to the hob, and it will cook for about 10 to 12 minutes per side, so the exciting bit is when I need to turn it around. On the other hand, if you wanted to do in the oven, cook it for about 15 minutes. Temperature, that is 15 by the way, not 50, 15. Temperature of 200 degrees, but do ensure that you go a suitable oven dish. You can also use a cast iron skillet if you go one of those, that'll be fine. You do not need to turn it around halfway either. I've just put it on the hob, and I started on a medium-high temperature number 7, but I will turn it down now to number 5. As it is beginning to sizzle. Can you hear the noises if you get closer? Yep, must be able to.
Yeah.
So before I put the lid on, I'll just make sure that I'll go around one more time. This is really, really important for later. So I'll put the lid on, and I will leave it to gently cook number 5, medium, for about 10 to 12 minutes, and then we can turn it around. And bang on, after 12 minutes, oops, hopefully I've spoiled it, no. Let's take a look, and it actually is doing really well. I can see that it's gently bubbling away. It should be ready to be turned around. The way to establish that is if you just lift it from the hob and gently, can you see it's moving? So it's a good sign. So let's go on the worktop and turn it around. If you've got a flat lid, perfect. Mine, as you can see, isn't. So I'm going to use a plate. And even the plate, I had to use a Christmas plate, because it's the only one that properly fits. The other too small or too big. This is olive oil. I'll put a little olive oil so that the top doesn't stick. Plate goes on. I'm going to put a tea towel on top of my hand to avoid me burning in case there are any drops of oil, but very, very, very assertively just flip it around. And le voila, it's looking great.
Lovely.
And as I've oiled my plate, it will just slide off like a dream. Let's center it and back on the hob. Here we go, back on the hob, leave it to medium temperature. And no lid, I'll leave it without the lid now, and 8 to 10 minutes so that the bottom will get lovely and crusty, and then we can try it. And we are there, it's ready, and wait to check it again if you just, see, it's moving, so it's a good sign. And if any of the cheese oozes out, like here, my mozzarella is perfectly okay. In my case it's okay, but if your cheese was a little bit too watery or too liquidy, you might see some cheese bubbling up on the top. That's also okay, don't worry. But let's see what we have made. Use my magic dish again. This time I don't need to put any oil because I know that it's going to work anyway. And we'll turn it over once again. And voila. Ooh, wonderful. I've got this wooden pumpkin. I think I'll move it here so that we can make a nice picture. Look at that, Julie.
Looks super, doesn't it?
Ideally you can do with eating this cold, but we're starving, so we're gonna eat it now. But it's been resting for a good 5 minutes at the very least. But it feels nice. And I'll do a couple of slices as it's Julie and I for the time being. And let's have a look. Oh, wonderful, look at that, Julie.
Ooh, lovely.
It looks delicious. And we are going to have ours with a salad which Julie made. Here it is.
Don't get too impressed, everybody. Even I can throw a salad together.
Of course. Oh, it feels really nice. Look at that. Wonderful.
Looks super.
That's really, really lovely. Sorry, lovely. Delicious, and it's so easy to make as well. You just need to take a little time to make sure that you cook it long and slow or medium on the fire, and then it'll be fine. Or if you do it in the oven, even easier. Let me know if you make it, or if you do a different version. It'll be interesting to see if you change only the ingredients. Like I said, you can use pepper or courgettes or anything you find in the fridge.
I fancied artichokes, actually.
Yes.
I think a nice jar of artichokes would be super in there.
Yes, you can use anything you like, but with the aubergines it's excellent. That is all I can tell. Arrivederci and buon appetito. Ciao ciao.